His newest movie is based on the James Baldwin novel If Beale Street Could Talk. The film is about a young black couple in New York City in the 1970s. Their families come together to fight the man's wrongful imprisonment amid a big surprise.
What's going on?
This is a sacrament. And no, I ain't lost my mind. We are drinking to new life. Tish gonna have Fonny's baby.
Well, not everybody's happy about Tish having Fonny's baby, and that's how it started. Barry Jenkins is a director and also adapted the novel. He's here in Studio 57. Good to have you back, Barry Jenkins.
Good to be back.
There were many surprises in this movie for me, but first starting with you, I did not know that this was the first James Baldwin book that had ever been turned into a movie. I was so surprised to hear that, and you did that.
Yeah, it's a shock to me.
It was a shock to you too?
Yeah, I was surprised to hear it as well. But I think part of that is just, there are many black authors who haven't been adapted that should be.
But it's James Baldwin though, Barry.
I know, but Toni Morris has only been adapted once. Richard Wright, I think, has only been adapted once. Just so many of these literary titans that haven't been adapted. So proof positive, when I first adapted this book, I didn't have the rights to it. I just took a trip to Europe and decided I'm going to adapt a James Baldwin novel, and then after the fact realized, in order to make this film, I need the rights. So that was when I engaged with the James Baldwin estate.
It's ultimately a love story, but it's also about false imprisonment.
Yeah.
It's set in the 70s, but could so happen today. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think that's the power of James Baldwin. So much about this book, you could take it and set it in 2018, which as a filmmaker would be much easier for me. I can point my camera any direction, and not have to clear a street or clear a sign. But to me, the power in what Mr. Baldwin was writing about, which is that he was telling the truth, was how these problems have persisted. And so to allow the book and the film to remain set in the early 1970s, to me, it just spoke to the idea that the family in this film could be any family today.
And how do you address that issue, going after the justice system while also telling a beautiful love story?
To me, it's just relying in the very evocative voice of James Baldwin. What I loved about this book in particular was it has this one voice of James Baldwin, which is very lush and sensual, very romantic, but also at the same time, just as lush about speaking truth to power of the injustices that black folks have always had to face living in this country. And I think when you take, they say a story is the best vehicle for an idea. I think a relationship is the best vehicle for empathy, And so I think the tragedy arises because you see how innocent and pure the love between our two main characters are.
And it's able to sustain despite all the things that are thrown against them.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the amazing thing about the story. Can I ask you a question? We saw it in the clip there. There's a lot of space in this film where there are silences and you just hear the low music in the background.
Yeah.
What is that? What's going on there?
To me, it was about, when I make these films, none of them are autobiographical, at least the ones I've made so far, but I often can go back to memories of my own childhood. And, I've never had to tell someone that I was pregnant because I'm not a woman, but I imagine it's not something you rush into.
Right.
And so the space in that scene in particular, it was about Tish very slowly growing into this announcement, and then Mom, played by Regina King, going, you know what? I've got this. And I think when you watch it with an audience, in that space, what you see is people going back to their own memories, and the laughter just spreads around the room. And the scene that on its surface seems very quiet and very, almost sort of very methodically paced, it's just filled with all these grenades of experience, which is what I love to do most as a filmmaker.
It's said about you that you like making people happy, but you sometimes have a hard time with happiness yourself. Is that true?
I think it's partly true.
I don't like that, Barry Jenkins.
I know. I need to sit down with a therapist and my girlfriend and talk about this a lot more.
Gayle King is available. She did major in psychology.
I have a wonderful couch in my office.
She does.
I think it's just something about, we hold on to our childhoods quite a bit. A friend of mine said, if you want to really find a way to empathize with someone, imagine what they were like as a child. Because most of the things we carry into adulthood are these traumas that we experience as a child. So I think this idea of happiness, family, community, all these things are very potent with me because as a child, I felt maybe a bit outside those things.
Yeah. Well, you can come back to this table anytime because we'd love to make you happy. We'd love to see you happy. Great work when you're happy.
Those things make you a great writer and director and all those things. You have great empathy and understanding.
Exactly.
Barry Jenkins, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If Beale Street Could Talk will be released in select theaters December 14th and nationwide in January.